I remember the morning clearly. I woke up before dawn, not because I had to, but because I believed my vote mattered. The air was cold, the roads quiet, and yet the polling station was already alive. Old women leaning on walking sticks, young men cracking nervous jokes, mothers with babies strapped to their backs. We were all there for one reason: to choose our future. That day, I voted, and like millions of Kenyans, I went home hopeful. But hope, in this country, has a short lifespan. By evening, the familiar tension returned. Phones glued to our hands, TVs blasting results that changed every few minutes. Numbers rising, falling, then rising again. And deep inside, a question many of us were too afraid to ask out loud. Are they doing it again? Because this wasn't new. I grew up watching Raila Odinga challenge election results, not because he enjoyed losing, but because every election seemed to end the same way: confusion, controversy, and courts. In 2007, the country burned. Votes were announced, but the ground told a different story. People died, families were displaced, yet no one was held responsible for manipulating the process. That was my first lesson. In Kenya, elections can be deadly, but accountability is optional. Then came 2017. We were promised a technological revolution: biometric voting, electronic transmission, no more rigging, no more human error. But when the results were announced, Raila Odinga went to court again. And this time, something historic happened. The Supreme Court nullified the presidential election. Not because of violence, not because of protests, but because the process itself was illegal and unverifiable. Forms were missing, servers couldn't be accessed, results could not be confirmed. For the first time, the court admitted what many of us had always suspected: the system itself was compromised. But what happened next still haunts me. Instead of fixing the system, the country rushed into a repeat election. Raila Odinga withdrew, saying the same flawed system could not produce a different outcome. And so, Uhuru Kenyatta ran almost alone. I remember choosing not to vote and asking myself, is this really an election or just a formality? Turnout dropped. Entire regions stayed home. Uhuru won, yes, but against who? That was my second lesson. You can win an election and still lose legitimacy. Fast forward to 2022. Once again, we were told, this is the most transparent election in Kenya's history. New technology, new commission, new faces. And once again, I voted. William Ruto was declared the winner. But almost immediately, cracks began to show. Raila Odinga challenged the results, citing discrepancies between polling station forms and what was displayed on the public results portal. Some forms were missing security features, others were altered. Results appeared without proper documentation. Even more troubling, several commissioners publicly distanced themselves from the final declaration, saying the tallying process lacked transparency. Think about that. Officials tasked with protecting the vote openly disagreed with the outcome. Raila went to the Supreme Court once more. The court upheld Ruto's victory, but it also acknowledged irregularities. And that's the part many people ignore. Because in Kenya, courts often say, yes, there were problems, but not enough to change the winner. So the pattern continues. Errors without consequences, irregularities without accountability, elections that are legal but never fully trusted. People mock Raila Odinga for always going to court. They call him a sore loser. But I ask myself, if elections are truly free and fair, why are they always contested? Why do forms disappear? Why do servers become untouchable? Why do commissioners disagree after results are announced? Maybe rigging in Kenya is no longer about stuffing ballot boxes. Maybe it's about controlling systems, timelines, and fatigue. About overwhelming citizens until they give up questioning. Because eventually, we all do. Rent is due, school fees are waiting, hunger doesn't care who won. That's how the system survives. Not by convincing us it is fair, but by exhausting us into silence. Raila Odinga's challenges have never just been about one man. To some, he represents resistance. To others, disruption. But to me, he represents an uncomfortable reminder that our democracy is still unfinished. I still vote, not because I am naive, but because refusing to vote feels like surrender. And challenging flawed elections, whether through courts or voices, is not unpatriotic. It may be the last thread holding our democracy together. That is my story, not of one stolen election, but of a country still fighting to get it right.